everybody, today I'm going to be making what I call a World of Swirls bangle cuff bracelet that you see here. So follow along if you'd like to see how I make it. Alright, I want to somewhat sketch out this bracelet that I have in mind. Basically, I'm going to have it coming around like that. Alright, of course this is going to be doubled on the inside here. This is just a drawing, don't worry about the drawing. I'm not an artist, artist of drawing. But anyway, so once we get the wire, alright, let's make that right there and keep that right there. So once we get the wires to the side here, we want to then come up like here, come up and down, up the opposite direction of this one, and down right there in the center, and down right there in the center. Try to line it up with that right there. And then I want to make like a little swirl here. And then have it come back around. And then finish off like that. So let's see how it's going to turn out. I know it looks like chicken scratch now, but I promise it'll start to come together. All right. So this bracelet that I'm making is specifically measured for my wrist, and my wrist is exactly 7 1/4 inches round. All right. So the measurements that I'm giving is for a 7 1/4 inch bracelet. All right. But it can be altered by tightening or loosening the swirls to fit up to a size, I want to say size 9.5 and down to maybe a size 6.5. I'm going to be using aluminum wire for this project, and it is 12 gauge, so it's fairly thick and it's kind of stiff, so you're going to really need some hand muscle for this. So I'm going to cut approximately 36 inches. Okay. Instead of using my flush cutters, which I use for cutting smaller gauge wire, I'm going to use more heavy duty pliers to cut the wire instead. That way you don't ruin your flush cutters, which cuts thinner wire. You'll leave little grooves or indentations inside there, and it'll start to bow in different spots on the inside. So don't use your small gauge flush cutters for that. So go ahead and cut your 36 inches. Now I'm going to find the center of this 36 inches of wire that I cut. I'm just finding the center by putting the two ends together. And there we go. Got your approximate center right here. Now once I found the center, I'm going to come down to where it bows here and tighten up like that. Right there. I'll try to use my hands as much as possible because the aluminum wire scratches easily. So the more you use tools for it, more likely it'll get an indentation or a scratch. So I'll try to use my hand as much as possible for it first. So I want to get that little loop like that. So to protect my wire as much as I can, I'm going to go ahead and tape my round nose pliers. I would generally use painter's tape, but I'm also a fan of using what I have on hand, and I don't have any painter's tape, so I'm improvising and using Scotch tape. It'll work just the same. All right, so next I'm going to pinch this a little bit closer. Try to get sharp, as tight a curve as I can there. There we go. Straighten out the wires a bit. And next I'm going to wire inside there and tighten even more if I can. All right. Now you want to take one side and bend it the opposite direction of the loop. So just basically putting it around the side of the pliers. Try to keep everything in hand here. And just bend. There. It's kind of hard to do it in frame, but this is basically it. You make like a little S shape. Okay, now I want to take it off. Squeeze it together a little bit. We'll squeeze it together a little bit. There we go. And now put it back on my plier to hold it and turn it a bit more. I'm going to use my hand for now. That seems to work better, especially since I have very little workspace here without having to hit my camera. So I'm going to start the other wire and just turn that. Basically chasing each other. The wires are starting to go around. I'm trying to keep my spaces in between the turns as close to the same as possible, but it's not really necessary. Just try to make it a little bit uniform if you like. You know, if you like that, just all right, so the hardest part is really getting started with this inner circle here. And I like how I made it look kind of like a yin-yang sign. So that was what I was going for, and it actually worked out. So that's great. All right, so I'm going to put it on my wrist. See what it's looking like so far. And that is good. I think that's enough. Those are enough swirls for now. So I'm going to go ahead and bend this over a little bit more so these can be on opposite sides. Like that. So now you got to decide, before you start to make your swirls on the side to make the cuff, you have to decide which direction you want your this center part to be. You can either have it going this way on your arm or this way on your arm. So I think I want to make it that way. So depending on which way you want it, if you want your swirls to come this way, you have to bring your wire around to this side. If you want it to stay the way it is, your wire is just fine the way it is, like this, up and down. All right? I'm going to let mine stay the way it is here. And I'm going to straighten this side out just a bit. Straighten both sides out, actually. All right, and then I'm going to come to the very edge of this swirl here, right here, and that's where I'm going to place my pliers. To make my first turn. So I'm going to hold it a bit tightly, not so tight where it'll put an indentation into the wire, just a bit taut, and just use my thumb and my wrist to turn the wire. Till it gets that bend, and then I can bend it the rest of the way with my hand. Like that. And I'm going to do the same for the other side. Come to the edge of the swirl here. Put your pliers and turn that wire like that, and put it in a little bit closer and straighten. All right, and that's basically how we're going to do our side-to-side swirls. And you can do it freehand, or you can continue to use the tool. I use the tool to get started so my curves will be kind of uniform. Otherwise, you could just do this whole thing freehand, no tools, except like really sharp turns right here and towards the end, obviously. All right, so now I'm going to come back on the edge of this one and do the same. Right here. And bend that wire around. Like that. And follow up on the other side. All right, so we got our two sides there. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I said before, art is art. And anyway, you remember from that sketchy drawing that I had, I'm going to try to make the swirls, the circle, line up right here. So I'm going to put my pliers right, instead of putting it directly in the middle, you're going to put it off to the side a bit. So if this is the center, we want to put our pliers like right here. All right, so find the center and go just a few centimeters beside that, because you're going to be turning. You're going to turn that wire, and that'll make it come over that way. So if you were to put it directly in the center, when you turn the wire, it'll be more off kilter towards this way. So like I said, center, and then go a couple centimeters beside the center with your pliers and turn. So to help you out, you can go ahead and mark where you want to place your pliers. I've already done so with a Sharpie. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and place my pliers right on. Stuff out the way. So just place my pliers right there, right next to that mark, and turn the wrist inward, and as well as the wire at the same time if you can. And don't let go, because we're going to make a circle. It's kind of hard to stay in frame, so I'm sorry, you guys. I'm not purposely getting off frame. All right. Let's turn the rest of the way with my hand a little bit. As you can see, where we made that mark with the Sharpie is now centered. Before it was over to the side, now it's centered. So let's keep the swirl going. It's very stiff wire, guys. The more you work it, the harder it gets. Work hardening. All right, so far that's what I have there. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. All right, we made our 2 circles on either side. I'm going to bring that wire up just a bit in the continuous flow pattern. Bring it up a bit, right along there. Now get the pliers again. I'm not going to mark it this time. And go ahead and make a loop going the opposite direction. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do this side. All right, so I've made the second loop. Your bracelet's not going to be identical, and that's the beauty of hand making jewelry. It's not a machine, so of course it's going to be off a little bit. As you can see, this is spread out a little further than this side. So if you want to keep it like that, keep it like that. Or if you like, spread it out more or close it in a little more. So the choice is yours. This is your art. Do it how you like. But basically, this is how it's looking right now. So now, as you can see, the wires are always going in the opposite direction. You got one wire coming this way and the other one coming this way, which is good. So here I made this curve up here. So down here, I want the curve going this way. So I bring my wire down like that to line up with this one. Okay, let's do the other side. All right. Now, if you like, you can continue on with your tool if you're using it, or you can just handle it with your hand. I think at this point, I'm going to use my hands. I always like using my hands if I can, until I can't, which is a time when it starts to get painful or something like that. But for now, I'm going to make the bend here with my finger. Try to line it up with that as close as I can. And if it's off a little bit, so what? It doesn't matter. All right, let's do my other side. All right, so go ahead and curve that wire around a bit. Another thing about aluminum wire is very malleable. I like using it, but I don't like how soft it is at times, where you can just nick it ever so slightly and you can be as careful as you can and it still scratches it or dents it. But finished product comes out nicely. And sometimes you can get those nicks out by hammering your project, which gives it a different type of look, but it hides those nicks and dents. So there we go. I'm just going to continue on with the next one. Over just a bit. And turn. You can even start to come inward a little. You know, you see that you started out wide here and have it come down like that. And I think that's what I'm doing right here. Just a bit. So always got to match up what I do on one side, do the same on the other side. So I think I've made enough swirls and coils. So I'm going to finish up this bracelet with, you guessed it, more of these. But instead of two, I'm just going to make one big one here and here. So I'm not going to use the tool, like I said before. Want to finish? Well, actually, I have to use the tool to start the coil. I forgot that I'm going to work my way inward. So, go ahead and put it at the tip there. Hold tightly. And turn. Basically, I started with the tool and tried to finish with my hand here. Sometimes it doesn't always work because the wire is very hard. There we are. Now let's do the other side. All right, so that is it with the bending of the wires. So the bracelet is pretty much done with the formation of it, with all the swirls and coils. So at this point, if you like it like this, you can, if you have like a bracelet mandrel, you can wrap it around your bracelet mandrel to form the shape that you want. If you don't have a bracelet mandrel, you can use something round, like anything rounded about the width of a bracelet, and use it to wrap it around there. Or you can start to bend the wire with your hand manually to form the cuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like if I just do it with my hand. And that's how it looks like that. Just bending it with, you know, manual bends. And let me go ahead and put it on my wrist here. And you just manipulate it until it fits. You get the fit that you like on your wrist. As I said before, I was making it to fit my wrist. And I put it on top here. This is how much I have opening. As an opening, it's about that much left. And earlier I said you can make it wider or smaller. Obviously smaller by squeezing more and wider by stretching more. And if it still doesn't fit the size you want, you can just press these in closer. All these swirls, you can push them in closer, and that'll obviously make the bracelet smaller in size. You know, like that. But I don't need it smaller. It actually fits the way I like it to fit. I'm just showing you how to make it smaller if you need. And obviously you do the opposite. If you need it bigger, you just space them out more. Okay. And here's the finished bracelet without the hammered look. Now the bracelet is good the way it is, like this. But my whole intention when I started making this bracelet was to hammer it. So I like the way it looks like this, but I want a different sort of look. So I'm going to hammer mine. I'm going to stretch it back out, and then I'm going to hammer it. And you know, when you hammer, it's going to spread it out even more. So keep that in mind if you plan on hammering yours. All right, so I've gotten it straight again. So I have my steel block here. And if you don't want to make any indentations, or you want to keep it smooth looking, you can use a rawhide mallet to keep your wire straight. And then instead of hammering on the face of the bracelet, I'm going to turn it on the inside and hammer on the inside. Hammering also strengthens the wire, and with aluminum, which since it's so pliable, malleable, you need a little more strength for this. So I'm going to use the hammer here and just go ahead and hammer it. Also, as you hammer, it'll start to bend on its own. See, it's starting to curve a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and hammer the outside as well, because I actually like that look with the hammered look for it. So I'm gonna hammer this side. I'm making when I'm hammering, I'm doing it a bit hard to make dents inside, to dent it up a little bit. Okay, so I've put my block away, and I like it the way it looks like that. You can see the little indentations in there, the hammered look. I like that. And you can also see that it's spread my wire out, and also it kind of like bows your wire. You just manipulate the wire back into the shape that you want it. I'm going to use this round thing here to help me with that, since the wire got a little harder from hammering. And I'll just finish the rest of the way manually. And here is our finished bracelet. It looks amazing. Thank you guys for joining me for another tutorial. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you would please consider doing so. Thank you for viewing, commenting, liking, and just sticking with me. So we'll see you next time for the next video. Bye bye for now.